Hey folks, Kevin here. I wanted to have a quick video about agent model for the LLM. This is kind of an explainer video for folks who don't know, have any idea what the agent model is and kind of how it works. And so I'm just going to jump right in. So typically with any API, you have a request to go get some stuff from the API, and then the API sends it back. We know about GET requests, we know about POST requests, PUT requests. It's kind of like just go get it and come back, right? And so it's like kind of one way or two-way communication, and that's kind of just how it works. That's very different from this kind of thought of what the agent model is. And the reason why the agent model works is because the chat interface, the language models are smart, meaning like they can feed input into themselves and decipher what's coming in. And so because they're acting kind of like this autonomous, almost like almost like a human would do, you could do a lot of interesting things. So agents basically take information that came from another agent and feed it back into this loop. So what does the agent have access to? So they can have access to a database, a traditional database. You can give them working memory or long-term memory, which we've seen in this new agent that just came out, Auto GPT. They can have access to the file system, which is what we're trying to build with EXO, where they have the ability to write files, update files, find files, read files, that sort of thing. Google search, right? So if you give the agent access to the entire internet, you can go and get all sorts of information that the LLM might not have been trained on, right? A lot of these training models ended in 2021 or whenever they ended, and the corpus of data that they understand is up into that point. And so, like, if you need the weather today, you can go to Google and find it. Website crawling, similar concept. Websites are updated, Wikipedia is updated. Current events happen, that kind of thing. You want to be able to get that information. Generate images, right, for your website. And then really interesting is write code. So you can write code. Even more interesting is the ability to run code, right? So if you're writing code, what a human does, what a programmer does, is they write code and they test it. They see if it works, right? So the agent has to be able to run code also, evaluate that. So when you run code, what a programmer does is it looks at the output. If there's an error message, it looks at the error message and then tries to go figure out what's causing the error message. Well, the agent can do that. Just feed the error message right back into the loop. So, and then the agent has to be able to understand when the task is complete. Now, that's kind of a nuanced thing, right? Like, from a programming perspective, trying to get a computer program to understand like when it's complete, you have to be very explicit with the program, exactly what the criteria are for stopping. Like, you can run a cron job and it can, trigger and run, and then you tell it to stop. With the agent, you can be a little bit ambiguous about, how the task is complete. In fact, you don't even have to put a complete parameter. So if I gave it the prompt, an Express server that can be hosted on any cloud provider and uses a Postgres database and creates all the functions you would need to support an Uber for childcare business. Okay, so that's pretty open-ended. There's no stop parameters there. The agent will just continue to run until it thinks that this thing is complete. And maybe every loop of the cycle, it's evaluating, hey, is this finally complete? Like, do we have all the functions that we need for Uber for childcare? Maybe on the first pass, it has a list of 10 things that, the functionality that you mean, like user login and child registry and all this other stuff. And then on the second pass, it adds one more thing to the list. Well, the task isn't complete. And see, that's the beauty of the agent. And it really acts like a human in that way, right? So like, as you're building a company, you're trying to understand what your users need and adding things to the list of things that you need to do and build. And so that's kind of how the agent works. And then to take this a step further, the agents, you can have multiple agents and they can be running continuously, right? So we have this idea of a cron job in programming where it's running tasks in the background on a given cadence, say like every hour or every couple minutes or every day, it goes and does something that we need it to do. But an agent can be running continuously and it can keep things updated over time. Like, for example, it could update your code over time, make sure every file has a test, for example, make sure that your evaluating every single kind of path through the programming code that you can, dealing with edge cases, constantly running the code to make sure that things are running correctly, stress testing the code, giving it crazy inputs and seeing how it's handled. And so these are the type of agents that you can build with just these very kind of primitive features, this primitive access to like the database and the file system. It can do all these things, right? If you just say, hey, agent, go stress test this controller with some crazy inputs, and it would go do it. You don't even have to you don't even have to tell it the crazy inputs. It can kind of generate it on its own. And so that's the kind of idea. The other idea is that we're going to have agents talking to each other. And so you don't have to have just one agent kind of going through the loop. Asynchronously, when you tell it to do something, multiple agents can fan out and they can go do different tasks and come back into kind of this and report back to a shared short-term memory and a shared long-term memory. Update things in the file system that are shared amongst the agents, update the database that is shared. So that's the concept of the multiple agent model. So to bring it back to the Uber for childcare, so let's say you have a project management system like Jira or Basecamp or one of these. Let's say this now feeds into the database, or even better, let's say like the agent has access to the API that gets this product that taps into the project management software. Well, as you add stuff to the project management software, the agents can go out and just build the features that you need, right? So like, let's say you are building an Uber for childcare where you have babysitters that are like kind of on demand. Well, let's say you want to have this kind of school to train up young folks who want to, be a person who watches children. Well, you want to, have a curriculum, so you have to create some endpoints for the curriculum. You have to have people being able to add the curriculum, so all the CRUD operations for that. Well, you just add that to the project management software, and the agents know how to build software, so they go and iterate this loop of building the systems that you need for that functionality. So that's the kind of idea of why everyone's so excited about these agents, because they are basically a smart human working in the background almost continuously, or they can work continuously to do the tasks that a human would do to build complex systems over time. So that's the excitement, and that's why I'm